Hey everybody, this is going to be a quick tutorial that just covers the basics of sculpting and also using a little bit of hyperNURBS to create an organic shaped model and then manipulate it, push it around a little bit. So let's go in. The first thing we're going to do is just pop in a cube and make it editable. I'm not going to worry about adding segments at this time, and just going to also pop in a hyperNURBS. Here we go. HyperNURBS, and this might be called, I'm trying to think what it's called in 15, subsurface, something like that, subsurface scattering, or no, that's not it. Anyway, it's a different name, same location, same icon right here. Okay, so drop one of those in, then you're going to need to add the cube into the HyperNURBS. Notice what happens. It changes the surface into a rounded sort of spherical shape. If I look in the polygon mode, you can see that we still have those same polygons from the cube, but it's wrapped it around and added what looks like more polygons. So it's giving the illusion of more of those. What we can do with this then is we can extrude sides, so we can stretch things out, we can work with different individual polygons in this rounded formation. So for example, I could take this and stretch it up a little bit just by moving. I could take and hit the D key to extrude, and extrude out another surface, another face. Maybe scale this down a little bit. You can rotate it. You can do a lot of things to make this object much more organically shaped in its formation. So anyway, this gives you kind of a way of scaling, moving, manipulating, adding more segments, working with those different elements. Don't forget you can also select more than one side at a time just by simply hitting the shift key. Grab both of these sides, go back here, I can extrude, hit the D key, I can extrude out to make other sort of forms into the shape. So it's a powerful tool that allows you to create more organic looking objects, right, in this sort of formation. This is my, I don't know, camera elephant, I guess. So anyway, then from here, you can keep adding, you can keep manipulating to get the basic sort of form. If we wanted to add more details to it, we could go into the Sculpt menu. So let's do that. Once we're happy with our shape, I'm just going to make this editable. Okay, so we can see how the polygons have been added and made more definition and detail. And then the way that we go into the Sculpt mode is, I'm just going to go to the Object mode right here, and then if you go over to the Layout, you can go down to Sculpting. Once you do that, you're going to get this change of the viewport. You're going to get a change of the Attributes Manager, the Objects Manager. Here we have a tab on the side, Sculpting Layers. And notice that none of these tools are highlighted yet. We can't quite use them. What we need to do to sculpt is we need to add more subdivisions. So if you can just click this button, Subdivide, it gives you a count. The more subdivisions, the more detail. Typically, you're looking for around, I don't know, I'm just going to say like around 10,000, 20,000 polygon count. Right now, subdivided 2 times, and now we have a good amount of subdivisions there. So that works out. Now we have all of these tools that we can use, and the way that they work is you just simply grab one, and then when you scroll over the object, you see that the object is highlighted on the surface. So at any point you can take a surface and you can grab and you can pull and stretch and add other elements to it. It's like pulling, working with clay at this point. I'm just going to go back a step. You can change the size of your tool. So that was, size was 20. If I bump it up to 62, let's say, then I can grab a larger section and really work with it, twist it, pull it in different directions. You may need to move around a little bit in order to get the right sort of dimension to pull out, let's say. So you really need to think about how you're oriented in order to get, if I wanted to add tusk to this guy here, I'd have to really be oriented in the correct orientation to get this to look just how I want it to look. Okay, so the orientation, the size becomes important. The other thing that we have in all these tools is a way to use symmetry. So if you click on symmetry, right now there's no symmetry, so you have to choose one of these dimensions. If I choose the X, it's going to work on the the Z and the Y. And so what that means is that we're going to be able to work as though this is divided in the middle along the Y-axis, and we're going to work on the left and the right side simultaneously. So if I grab one thing and I pull it, it's going to work on both of them together, right? So if my goofy elephant-looking guy here, if I take this and let's say add a tusk, it's going to add 2 tusks at the same time. That looks like a crazy nose. Let's do it over here. So something like this, right? So now, I have that sort of form, and I can continue to manipulate and make this, more tusk-like. So you really just have to work and push it and pull it around. So some of the other tools, let's talk. That was grab. Again, we've changed the scale. It allows you to kind of push and pull things around a little bit. And again, typically when I'm working with the basic sort of shapes, I like to work with the tool a little bit bigger so I can kind of like gradually punch in these areas or shape them to make them how I want them. Changing the scale of the tool becomes really important, and then changing your orientation. I can't stress that enough. Really kind of manipulating around. Since we're working with these forms in 3 dimensions, we really need to think about how that comes together in the objects. All right, so grab, inflate. For each one of these, if you don't have symmetry on, you need to turn it on. So make sure you do that. Inflate, what it does is going to change the size of this, and you can literally, sort of draw on the surface, and it's going to inflate an area. See, I'm kind of drawing on the surface with the cursor down, and it's making these areas inflate like a balloon. So it allows you to bulge out areas, to make your form a little bit more robust. So that's a good one to use. And again, the scale is important. How large or how small it is determines the circumference that it's going to bulge out. So if I wanted to make a little eyeball, I might want to increase the pressure and change the size, and then make a little eyeball sort of form there. Okay, so that's inflate. That becomes an important one. Other ones that I think are really helpful, the knife tool is good. Again, let's turn on the symmetry here. It actually will make an indentation. So, let's just say the ear, for example. I just want to kind of indent this and make it more. It's not going to make a cut like through it, but it's going to make like an incision essentially to make that more apparent. So knife becomes an important tool to use to create those edges, or maybe if you wanted to have like a mouth of some sort here or something, Anyway, that works, to sort of add those sharper sort of details. Maybe like around the eye, for example, a little bit sharper. So some of those details you can kind of work in a little bit with the knife tool. If they get to be too sharp, you can always use the smooth tool. There we go. Again, turn the symmetry on, settings. I'm going to put the pressure down to 50%, and you can sort of smooth it out. So you see that it takes that sharp edge and sort of smooths it down a little bit more. So this is helpful too if you're really, if you're using the grab tool a whole lot. Let's say a smaller grab tool, and you're just starting to punch in areas, and you're not really happy with the way that looks. You can always take the smooth tool and increase the size a little bit, and you can kind of like smooth it out, right? Lessen that sort of harsh form that was made. Okay, so it would take a lot more work for this. If I keep working on it and keep manipulating it, I can get this to really take shape. A few more things. The pull one allows you to do more like subtle kind of patterns on the surface, and when you're drawing with it, again, let's link that up and change the size down a little bit. If you wanted to make this to have like little those are too big actually. Let's change it a little bit smaller and the pressure less, and so you can do like little indentations here to give that kind of like textured surface, right? And then again, a little bit pixelated, so you might just want to hit it with the smooth a little bit, kind of dull it down a little bit, get it to be more subtle. So the pull gives you that sort of way of drawing lines, adding different than the knife. The knife does indentations, the pull will pull out the form, right? So you can kind of work with it that way. The other thing that's nice about the pull is that, let's see, you can add a stamp. So the way that I typically do this, and I haven't gone too far into it yet, I need to explore more, but essentially if you go to, it's the easiest thing to do is go to your presets, go to sculpting, go to Sculpt Brushes and choose, something like, I don't know, let's see, organic skin. How about this, like elephant looking skin, right? Double click this, it's going to load it in your thing right here. And then with the pull tool, you need to ramp the settings up a little bit more, and you can draw on the surface, and it will takes a little bit of messing around, but it will give you that sort of texture. Let's add the pressure much higher, 100% pressure, and there we go. We're starting to get a little bit of texture there. Let's see, the build up. I'm not sure what these do yet, but let's try to see if we change the build up higher. There we go. Getting that to be more textural. So you can manipulate the surface, by going in and giving it more texture that way, and it actually becomes part of the mesh. So what if we can add this? We can go higher than 100%. Yes, you can go higher than 100%. There we go. So you just kind of have to play around with these tools a little bit. But that gives you a bit more texture on the surface. There's other things like scales, for example. Load this one in. It shows you the little pattern up front, and when you draw on it, then it's going to be able to kind of pull and push those areas up. And there we go. I've made this kind of like bumpy sort of surface. So these are different ways that you can manipulate the surface to get a lot of detail, a lot of depth and dimension. You can work with more organic forms. You can use symmetry to work with your models. And then one last thing to notice is when we go to the Objects palette again, notice that the object has this Sculpt kind of menu on it. Eventually I will talk about how to go from this to our 3D printer, but what I'd like you to do is to experiment with working with organic models, working with the sculpting tools, and again, this is a competition. We're going to vote on the best model. The best model will be 3D printed, and you will be able to take that home with you. All right, so let me know if you have any questions, and practice with sculpting.